Let's play some hockey tonight. Energetic, passionate, and savvy. Gouche Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gouche.
Hey, welcome back to another great episode with Gouche Live, brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and, of course, Sports Illustrated, along with my good friends at Paramount Sports Management. I'm your host, Kerry Goulet, better known as the Gouche, but I have got Mr. Historian right here to talk to us about the Montreal Canadiens and their chances to win Game 7. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here he is. Put your hands together, Liam Maguire.
All right, hey, biggest applause ever.
Get it? Oh, listen, I've seen you speak a lot of humor, a lot of laughs, and a lot of claps. Hey, listen, let's talk about this for a second. How many times has Montreal and the Toronto Maple Leafs ended up in a Game 7?
Actually, just one time, Gooch. This is only the second time in their vaunted history, in their 16th ever playoff meeting, that they're meeting in a Game 7. Now, guess this, Game 7's best of sevens only started in the NHL in 1939, but they met, excuse me, in the seventh game of the semifinals of 1964. I think you could make the case that it was Dave Keon's greatest game ever. He was still very young in the NHL. It was only the conclusion of his fourth season in the NHL, but Toronto were down 3-2 in the series, won Game 6 at home, and then went into Montreal Forum and beat them 3-1 with Dave Keon getting all 3 goals, which was remarkable, really. And that's the only other time that they met in a Game 7. And they played in the playoffs in 65, 66, and the ultimate moment there in 67, which is to date, as we all know, their last Stanley Cup, and the last time that Toronto had even won a playoff game against Montreal was 1967. So we're in some sort of historical territory in that sense, no question. And tonight, and it should be a beauty. Who knows what really to fully expect based on how it's gone here over the previous 6 games.
Of course, we're going to break it down in a second, but obviously, you being the historian you are, think about that. It's only the second time they've met in a Game 7 in all of the history of the National Hockey League. Amazing.
It is, Gooch, because when you think back to when they started meeting with some level of regularity in the 40s and then even in the 50s, it is what it is, right? You go back and look at it. Well, in some of those instances, Toronto were just too strong in the late 40s. And, of course, the Barocco series, as most people refer to it, 1951, is still to date the only series where every game that was played went into overtime, that being 5 games. There's been 2 other in NHL history to have 5 overtime games in a series, but not every game went into overtime like 51 did. And then in the late 50s, the Habs were too strong. And then in the 60s, they pretty much went back and forth. It was, Toronto early, Montreal in the middle, and then Toronto finished it off in 67. And to think they only met that one time in a 7th game, it is surprising, given that they started playing against each other. As I said, the best of 7 started in 1939. And it was surprising to think that that's only happened that one time. It is kind of a neat historical fact.
All right, take us back to, obviously, 1967. We know what happened. We know about the Expo, and the Cup was supposed to go in the Expo in the Montreal Pavilion. It didn't. It ended up in Toronto. Everybody thought the Montreal Canadiens were going to take it, hands down. And even Ron said it. They thought they were going to have more, right? And that's what's crazy about this. You always think you're going to have more. You're not going to feel this again. And, of course, Ronnie Ellis didn't, and the Montreal Canadiens have. I think it was 1993 when Patrick Roy took the Montreal Canadiens to a Stanley Cup final. Talk to us about that 67 and 93.
Well, the Habs, they put in quite a few Stanley Cups between 67 and 93. And that's really where the two franchises kind of split. I mean, the road really split after 67, if you think about it. Sadly, for Leaf fans, it's been generations of despair and internal turmoil with the team to some degree. At times, these are all well-documented stories, obviously. And I just think that at different times, they've also put a real good product on the ice and just haven't been able to get over the hump. Late 70s, early 90s, early 2000s. These are times when the Toronto Maple Leafs went to the semifinals and just couldn't get back to a final. The Canadiens, as we know, rolled into the decade of the 70s and emerged with 6 Stanley Cups, and most historians feel the 77 team being the greatest single-season entry of all time. Myself, I do, and managed to have a very successful decade of the 1980s with 4 trips to the semis, 2 finals, and another Stanley Cup. And then the surprising one that in 93, which is their last, which now is also a long time ago. So that's kind of the history of the Habs between 67 and 93. The Leafs, as we know, Gouche, as I just said, kind of went the other direction. But in 67, that series, to me, Game 2, Toronto winning Game 2, and probably Game 5 were the ones that really set it up for them to take that win in Game 6. Yvon Cornway has touched on it many times. It was a crushing loss for them. They were overconfident. You're bang on what you said. They were the favorite in the series, much like Toronto have been the heavy favorites in this series. And Montreal got a real big shock in 67 and lost, and deservedly so. The Leafs were great on a number of different levels. Much like, unfortunately, in this case for Toronto, they've got a pretty big shock right now and find themselves where they were not expected to be in a 7th game. So you can right the ship here and get the W and put it all in the back burner. I mean, at the end of the day, a Toronto win tonight, and no one's really going to be talking about the fact that they had the 2 great comebacks and lost in overtime in Games 5 and 6. They lose. It's going to open up a can of worms, man.
Listen, Liam, in a few minutes, we're bringing up arguably one of the favorite Toronto Maple Leafs of all time, 1967 winner, Ronnie Ellis. But before I do that, I got to get your opinion on what's going to go on with the game tonight. Patrick Waugh versus Campbell, Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews against the Montreal Canadiens. They have played to a T, the Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, just like Winnipeg did with obviously McDavid and Draisaitl. Do you think it's a plan? Like, do you think it's because of Montreal's game plan, or is it that Matthews and Marners are just, maybe the pressure's too much? I can't believe that. They're tremendous hockey players. What's your thoughts on the Montreal Canadiens tonight with with obviously Carey Price, 6 wins, 2 losses in these type of games? I want to hear your opinion.
Well, Carey Price is proving that he still has it. I think there's been a lot of doubters, myself included, the last few years. And then, shockingly, last fall in the bubble, even though it was only 10 games, they all mattered, obviously, and he was outstanding. And I think that surprised a lot of people. And it certainly lent some. I think it gave Marc Bergevin, the GM, the impetus to go out and spend to the cap for the first time really in his regime as a GM and make the offseason acquisitions that he did, most notably picking up Jake Allen to back him up. And yet then Carey went out and had what was, by all accounts, a pretty pedestrian season. I mean, he didn't really play that well. And then they make the coaching change and Ducharme comes in and he looks like he's playing good. And then Chiasson in Edmonton catches him with a relatively innocent elbow. But this is the thing with concussions. You've talked about it numerous times, head injuries, and not just mental illness stuff, but just normal. Like you have been such an advocate to try to be prepared and how to come back from concussions. And now here he is back kicking out BBs, and he has been probably the difference to date, despite the fact that Jack Campbell's played very well. If you want to get into the analytics of it here, Gooch, here's the thing with Marner and Matthews. The Montreal Canadiens, in particular, the last 2 games, most of the series, in fact, have exercised incredible gap control on Austin Matthews, largely with Danault as the center that's marking him, but it's also been done with Suzuki and also been done with Kotkaniemi. They've all had to take a role platooning against Matthews, and not only him, but particularly the last two games where the Canadiens have had their best stretch of hockey in the series, periods 1 and 2 of each of the last two games, they have nullified the Leafs' transition game coming through the neutral zone to a T. And this has given the Leaf fits for sure. So that's one of the first things that they have to figure out a way tonight, Toronto, to try and overcome that and gain the offensive zone with control of the puck. They are not a dump and chase team. They are a team that carries it in. They have enough ammo typically through the lineup. And, Tavares is out. Now Muzzin isn't playing tonight. You're taking out some key pieces. And all of a sudden the Canadiens don't look like a 59-point team. And it goes back to how the season ended. They had to take a COVID break like other teams. And then they had to play 23 games in 46 or 48 days. Who does that? So how much of that was really the Montreal Canadiens? Like, the old story, Gooch, you're never as good as they were at the start of the season, but when they were losing all, they weren't that bad either. So you're getting a bit of a better version of them right now. And right now, they are playing structurally better than Toronto, and notably in the neutral zone where they're taking away the time and space. You got to think, man, at some point, if not tonight, right, Len, it's do or die, that Matthews and Marner are going to find a way to overcome that, because they are. Let's be honest, Gooch. Next year, if Canada goes to the Olympics, Mitch Marner's on the team. And, if the NHL players go, Austin Matthews is a lock for Team USA.
Yeah, no question.
These guys are locks for the two best teams that will be there. And yet it's the incumbent on Matthews and Marner to find a way to overcome. And it's incumbent on Sheldon Keefe. You got last change tonight, so you got to take advantage of that. And here, I'll say the last thing, then back to you. Montreal have gone down to 4 defense largely. Gustafsson and Kulak played less than 7 minutes each. This is unbelievable. Nobody is doing this anymore. Nobody is doing this. And the Canadiens have gone down to essentially 4 defense. And they're going to try and do it for one more time tonight. Believe me, I can't see either of these teams having a sniff against Winnipeg at this point right now. But they're going to try and do it for one more game tonight. And it's incumbent on Sheldon Keefe to try and get Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner out against Gustafsson and Kulak and try and take advantage of that. But it's a game within the game that has killed those guys offensively right now. And yet Nylander's played fantastic. And, so have a couple other guys.
Spezza looked really good. Listen, as we bring up Ronnie Ellis here, I just want to say that who's under more pressure? Price, because of all the things that he carries. He knows if he has any kind of off night, it's over. Or Campbell, who is, in both games down, he stormed back. He played unbelievable in all of the, the third periods. Who's under more pressure right now?
Well, Campbell for sure. I mean, the Leafs, all the pressure's on the Leafs here. No one gave Montreal a snowball's chance in hell of winning this series, and now they're in Game 7. So the pressure's on Campbell because of the crest he's representing. Not so much individual pressure, although there's that on every goaltender. The pressure on Carey Price, well, if Carey Price plays okay to good to great tonight and Montreal loses, let's be honest. Internally, he's earned his money. And like people have said, what a ridiculous contract. Well, he's more than earned it in this series.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
So the pressure's on Campbell because of the crest he's representing, not individual pressure, because I don't think he hasn't played poorly. But you're going to say that Toffoli goal on the 5-on-3 shouldn't have gone in? I mean, look, he's in tight. He's all alone. He gets the puck up and rolls up and through him. Excuse me. And I just think that the pressure's on Campbell because he's representing the team, not on individual pressure. And on Carey Price, it's another day at the office. At the end of the day, Carey Price could very easily end up like a Marcel Dion. Hate to say it, but it's heading that way. A guy who was an automatic Hall of Famer, automatic first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players in NHL history, who never came close to playing in a Stanley Cup final. And Price's teams have been in 2, never with him. In 2014, he got run by Kreider in Game 1 against the Rangers. And in 2010, Yaroslav Halak was the starter. The two other times at Price's time that Montreal were in the semis. The pressure is on Jack Campbell here 100%.
All right, listen, we've got a picture right above your, I guess it would be your left shoulder, arguably Team Canada 72, the Summit Series. Here is the man that made it work. He also won the Stanley Cup in 1967, one of our greatest ambassadors to the game, an all-time Leaf, Ron Ellis.
Hello, Gary. Liam, good to see you, man.
Hey, Ron, how are you, buddy?
We're doing super, my man. Doing super.
Fantastic.
I know you were down in the green room listening to all of that stuff, so I'm going to give Liam one chance, one question to ask Ronnie, or give him a stat before you leave us. Then we can get Ronnie's take on what your Montreal analysis was very, very good, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Ronnie's got to say about that. Liam.
Well, it's not a stat, but let's take advantage of the fact, Gooch. We've got a guy who was with the Leafs when they won that cup in '67. And Ron, just before you joined us, I'm not sure what time you joined the broadcast, but I was talking about the '67 series. And when the Leafs won Game 2, like Montreal won Game 1 pretty handedly, and then you guys won Game 2. I think it was 4-0, if I'm not mistaken. You made such a statement, and I'm wondering if at any point for that game or the other games that eventually led to you winning the Stanley Cup, if you can recall anything from internal in the dressing room, from George Armstrong, from Punch Imlach, from your leadership group, from that incredible group of defense that you guys had, anything that you could share with our viewers right now from inside the room, particularly maybe that win in Game 2 that ultimately helped you win the Stanley Cup.
Well, Liam, of course, Game 2 was very, very important win for us. For them to jump out 2-0 and then going back to Toronto, being down. And it really showed a lot of character of our guys. And the only thing I can say about it is we had a lot of veterans, as you know. I think we're still the oldest team to win the Stanley Cup, average age. And these guys knew this was their last chance. This team was not going to be the same the following season. There was going to be retirements. There were going to be players lost to expansion. And so this was it. And I really think it was our veteran guys who led the way in Game 2, that we got to get back into this series right away. And they just took the lead, and the young guys, myself, Stemkowski, Walton, Conacher, we just followed their lead. But they made up their mind as a group that they're not going to go out on a bad note. They wanted to win that Stanley Cup, and you got to remember, Liam, it was the last year of the 6-team league.
Right.
So winning the Stanley Cup at that time was a big thing. It was important. And unfortunately, Punch decided to go with veterans, and it cost us years after, but we won a Stanley Cup, but it did cost us in the following years because we had to rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Liam, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Obviously, your prediction tonight, we got to hear it.
I think Toronto will get it done tonight, Gooch. I think for Montreal to win 3 in a row against what I believe is a superior team on the ice, give them all the credit. What they did the last 2 games has never been done in NHL history, blowing 2 leads in the third period, going to overtime and winning 2 games. It's never been done. So I think they've pushed the envelope pretty much as far as they can. And I think you'll see the best of Matthews and Marner. You touched on it earlier, Gooch, and I'm just hoping for a great game. I don't know if my nerves can handle overtime, but right. I'm hoping for a great game, and I do think Toronto will probably get it done tonight.
Hey, we're looking forward to talking next week all about who's playing my Winnipeg Jets. Liam McGuire, always a pleasure hearing you talk not only about history, but your expert opinion on the Montreal Canadiens. Thanks, Liam.
I'm glad you mentioned Team Canada 72 because let's never forget Ronnie's involvement on that fantastic squad either, buddy. Ronnie, great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you as well, Liam.
All right.
All right, Ron, thank you for joining us on short notice. Of course, we wanted to try and get an understanding. You know, you can get what Liam had given us a little bit is the fact, you know, some of the historical stuff right now, what you're hearing on most shows is, you know, the deep inside tips of what player's going to do what. But I want to take it a little bit different. For you, he had already asked you the question, what were the tips that came to you guys from the veterans and that? But more importantly, right now, as Toronto sits in the, well, not right this minute, but just before the game, they're sitting at the Scotiabank Center. What are their thoughts? What's going through? Obviously, they've been beaten up, you know, in game sevens, as we know. The Boston Bruins have done it twice. Not every player was here. They brought in Joe Thornton. They got Spets. Tell me what's going through their minds as they sit down in the dressing room before the warm-up.
Well, I think Liam did a great job with the history of the Leafs. And the thing that's going through their minds, I believe, is, guys, we cannot let this happen. We've got to find a way to win. They're playing at home, and you know, they're going to be able to control the line changes and the matchups a little better than in Montreal. So I think they just got to realize that we're a good team. We won the North. Yes, we let a couple of games get away, but we can do it tonight, and we just got to play our game. And that's what they're doing. They're looking across the room, in the dressing room before the game. They're going to look across that room, and they're going to fix their eyes on another player, and they're going to say, hey, I'm going to do what I have to do. I'm not going to let you down. And that's what's going to start to happen in that room. They got to come together as a group. This is a wonderful opportunity for them to make some history. It's been a long time since they've got through, well, they haven't won a Stanley Cup in forever, but they got to get through Game 7. They got to win a Game 7 series. So I think they just got to keep their calm, believe in themselves, believe in what got them where they are right now, and go out and everybody do what they're supposed to do. And if they do that, I agree with Liam. I think they can win tonight.
All right, Ron, but let's talk a little bit about, obviously, the pressure that's on these young men. Obviously, they've got veterans like Spezza and Joe Thornton. These guys were called upon. JT, of course, not playing, but still in that room with many voices. Words are words. You need actions, and you've got Marner and Matthews, who are your leaders on the ice. Joe Thornton and Spezza, even though Spezza's been rock solid, they're not supposed to be the game winners right now. They're supposed to contribute, but it's got to be Matthews and Marner that do it. Tell me the thought pattern of a guy like Matthews right now, knowing the pressure he's under, because he's got to produce. Like this is the game that elevates it. This is probably what I would say right now in the history since 1967. This is arguably one of the biggest games of the Toronto Maple Leafs history, and that goes upon Matthews and Marner. With one goal out of those two, we need more. Love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, there's no question about it, Gouche. They are getting that secondary scoring, and you really need that to win. To win a Stanley Cup, you definitely need some secondary scoring, because you know the other teams are going to do their best to shut down your stars. But, you know, I really feel Matthews has been playing well. He's been getting scoring chances. He's been getting shots on net. And that's a good sign. And he just has to believe in that. And hopefully the puck will start going in for him. Marner's been having a little more of trouble. He's still playing great, but he's having a little more trouble, you know, getting the puck into the other zone and controlling it like he likes to. He likes to
Yeah.
get the blue line and then draw players to him and open up lines to his teammates. And of course, Matthews, he always looks for Matthews. So go ahead, sir.
Ron, can I ask you? So why? Like, he is such a phenomenal hockey player. Is it because he's having a rough? You said he's playing well. Matthews playing well too. Can we give full credit to the Montreal Canadiens for having a game plan, like what went on in Winnipeg, to make sure we shut that threat down? If we shut them down, then we're relying on Spetzes and all the rest of the depth players.
Well, yes, of course. The other team realizes if they can shut those two guys down, they have a much better chance. That's what happened with the Oilers. They got shut down. The Jets did a fantastic job, but we gotta give a little credit to Price as well. I haven't seen him play well in a long time, and this guy is a veteran. This guy's been through it all, Olympics, whatever you want, and this game is not going to bother him at all. Liam said it's another day in the office, and I agree with that. Yeah. He's just going to go out and do what he does. And unfortunately for the Leafs, he's gone on a roll, and he's got all kinds of confidence. He's coming out of the net to cut down the angles, and he's forcing it. And so, as well as Matthews and Marner are playing, they still have to beat a great goalie, and they haven't been able to do that. But I feel good about tonight. I really feel that they're going to just go out and do their job. And the whole thing is, don't try to do something you're not supposed to do. If you're a defender, defend. If you're a two-way player, play that way. And if everybody does their job, they brought people in to fill holes and to just add more of a complete team with good players that can play in both ends of the rink and add a little grit. So I'm not, I really believe that tonight is going to be the Toronto's night. But as we know in a Game 7, anything can happen, a fluke goal, whatever. But that's the problem with Game 7. And but I've got confidence in them. And it will be wonderful for the team, the city, the province, the country, if they can pull it off tonight.
Well, it would be sad that we don't get to see them win a Stanley Cup and have a chance to go to the parade. I've got barricades already set up out my front door. Here it is here. I want to bring back a memory for you. I don't know if you were involved with it, but there was Pyramid Power, right? I don't know if it was for the Stanley Cups or whatever, but you remember that whole situation. And Eric Stahl has changed it, or sorry, it was Corey Perry that changed it a little bit for the Montreal Canadiens. He adapted a little bit bigger. When he walked into the dressing room, he stuck his stick in a garbage can and said, "Guys, this is how we're going to win it. We're lunch pails. We're going to win it by certainly getting those garbage goals." Your thoughts on? I'll show you the picture one more time. It is an incredible picture. I think the city will be exactly that. Still, if the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup.
Well, that was a wonderful experience for me. It was my one and only Stanley Cup parade, but this was the fourth one in about 7 years. So the Toronto fans were a little spoiled. There weren't as many people at the parade as they said when they won their first one in the 60s. But the first one in the 60s, but it was still a big crowd. And for me, it was just an exciting moment. Just a short story on that. There is somewhere online you can find the parade, and you can see every player in their convertible. And I had never seen my picture before during the Stanley Cup parade. And I now have it. And it just happened. Our good friend Kevin Shea helped me out with that, and so it's just a wonderful memory. I have that now as a young 21-year-old in a Stanley Cup parade. My goodness, I cherish that picture, and I've never seen it before, but I'm so proud to have it now.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ronnie, to have you on for a few minutes talking hockey, talking Leafs, talking Stanley Cup, it is a true honor and a blessing. And I look forward to getting your insight if we go to the next stage, Winnipeg against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know we maybe can get you on next week and get your analytics on it, because nobody says it better than you, Ron. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I do want to say to everyone here today, we all are thinking of the horrific story out of Kamloops, 250 young lives that were lost many years ago. I know it would be a big part of your thoughts too. So, Ronnie, our prayers and thoughts to all of those people that are suffering through that. Ronnie, look forward to it. Game 7, it is on.
Let's go. Talking's over. It's time to play.
You got it. Garbage can hockey. Let's do it.
Bye-bye now.
See you, Ronnie. Bye, buddy. Oh, that was fantastic. Always love having Mr. Ellis on. He is a true gentleman and, of course, always there to help us. Great ambassador for Shoot for a Cure and, of course, Stop Concussions. Hey, guys, listen, what a great show. I was really excited about the fact that we had not only Ronnie Ellis, but Liam giving his perspective. Listen, I want to thank you for coming out today. You can find us at Gouche Live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, of course, and, of course, the one that really gets me, you can join us on podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you check it out. Thanks, Hockey News, Sports Illustrated, and, of course, Paramount Sports. And don't forget, right after the game, right after Game 7, we will be here with Jordan, myself, and Dan Blackburn will join us, and we'll be talking how it ended up. Are Leafs crying? Montreal crying? Who's going to take on the Winnipeg Jets? Till tonight.
You've been listening to Gouche Live with your host, Kerry Goulet, better known as The Gooch, brought to you by the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated.